What if I told you that the key to unlocking your energy, your clarity, and even your faith could be learning how to not eat and doing that really well? Today we're going to deep dive into the world of fasting. We're going to look at it from a scientific perspective, but then also look at it from a biblical perspective and see really what might be the things that people are curious about and maybe answer some questions that we all have and really understand what it can do for renewing your mind, refining your body, and refreshing your spirit. What's up, Mal?
What's going on,
Mal
Kalie?
doll?
What's up, Doc?
Malsters? What's up, Doc?
Thanks for the adjustment out there.
Yeah,
That felt
you're
great.
welcome. It's good.
Yeah,
We
I
had a
feel
little
like new
mobile
person.
chiropractic clinic before we got started. So fun.
Such a benefit of being your friend.
Boom. Take it wherever I go.
Hey.
We were at a friend's house one time, and they were moving, and everyone was like, my back hurts, and I was like, and they're all my patients, so I was like, just lay down on the ground. And so it was, did you walk in on the?
No, I wasn't
you went
there.
there. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun to be able to do that for people.
You're a
so.
blessing to us all.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so big questions. First of all, the last few episodes have come out that you've been on it have been doing fantastic. So I think people
Great.
are loving that you're here, and from the feedback that I'm getting, it's been really fun
That's
to have
awesome.
you.
So happy to hear it. Thanks, Kalie.
It's even making me laugh. I was just telling her one of the videos that I was editing, I was listening to our podcast and just like laughing my way through it. So that's going to come out. Actually, it has already come out. Hope you've enjoyed that.
Yes.
So today we're going to talk about fasting. Have you walked down the road of fasting, whether it be for like a spiritual journey or a health journey, intermittent fasting, and then also like consecutive days of fasting? Have you ever done anything like that?
I haven't done any really long-term fasting more than 1 or 2 days. I will intentionally not eat like after dinner and then take like a late breakfast usually. That's just how I eat. But no, I've never done like a really extended, I don't know what they're called, but like basically a long extended fast that's super therapeutic and like cell turnover and stuff like that. I've told you that my husband has done it.
The Chicken Man Tom.
Chicken Man Tom. He loves a good fast now and then. And yeah, he does. He feels like a new person when he gets done with a week of just no food, just water and electrolytes. So I look up to him in that regard.
Yeah.
And I want to work up to that. And I think we're going to talk about hormones and stuff today and how to kind of cycle or sync your cycle to your fasting. So that's something I want to be intentional with when I do decide to go on the longer fast.
Yeah, that's one of the big points today that I want to hit home is that men fasting and women fasting are two different experiences. Each has their hormones affected, but men can work through that at a more simple way, I guess we can say. Some of the things that we're going to first talk about is intermittent fasting. So that's what you were talking about, not eating dinner or eating an early dinner and then not eating until late lunch or late breakfast. That's a lot of what I do. Like I typically, like on a good, if I'm like being the best version of myself, I don't eat dinner, and I usually wait until I have breakfast, and then I have my lunch is usually like my main biggest meal.
Yeah.
Just mainly because of my lifestyle. Like 3 nights out of the week, I am working until at least 6:30 at night, and then I go to bed pretty early, 8:30, 9 o'clock. So just that window of eating when I get home and being able to rest and digest before I go to sleep, sometimes it's a little bit too late for me.
Yeah.
So I've found I feel the best when I don't eat dinner and when I do have a breakfast and a really big lunch. Those are the days I feel like I have accomplished my health goals.
Yeah, I agree. When I don't eat late at night, I always wake up feeling more refreshed and just like ready to hit the ground running.
Yeah, one of the simple things of that is like just giving your body time to rest.
Yeah.
Giving your digestive system time to relax. And we eat so much food in our country. It's just so readily available. I mean, you can drive down the street and there's 5 fast food chains and then 12 different restaurants. And it's like everything in our life is revolving around food. You go to parties and it's like this food, desserts, all these things. And food is fantastic and it's great, but some of the problems is that we just eat too much too often.
Yeah.
So we talk about intermittent fasting. There's different types of windows that we call them. Some of the most common ones are a 16-hour and 8-hour, 16 to 8, and then 18 to 6, and then also it's called OMAD, which is 1 meal a day. So you have a 16-hour break where you don't eat food and you eat during those 8 hours.
Right.
Or you have 18 hours where you don't eat and 6 hours where you do.
Yeah.
So some people would skip breakfast, eat lunch and dinner, and then go through that cycle again. And it really depends on what your lifestyle is best for. Like, again, like mine is the best when I don't eat dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are like, I have to eat dinner. I don't like eating breakfast. And so you've got to find your window of time.
Yeah.
I've even done 4-hour window where you eat for in that 4-hour window and then 20 hours is fasted.
Yeah, it's a long one.
Sometimes that feels really good too.
Mm-hmm.
Problem with that though is people think, oh, I can eat however much I want, whatever I want in those windows. You still have to be like consciously aware of eating good, healthy, nutritious foods.
Yeah.
Which on the next podcast we're going to talk about fad diets like paleo, keto, Whole30, our advanced plan that we have, vegetarian, vegan, like picking a lane and sticking to that and really even just getting commonly, I think you've said it on a few other podcasts, of just eating whole foods, like good meats, good veggies and things like that.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit more about like when you do your intermittent fasting, what are some of the things that you experience as far as like the benefits of that and what keeps you going?
I can see when I give my body more time to digest my food before I go to bed. Like I said, I wake up more energized, and I'm not really hungry right off the bat when I wake up, but I feel like I could eat. When I go to bed after I eat, if I'm eating at 8:30 or 9, if I'm out late for some reason, I'm waking up a little bit more sluggish. Like I'm just be honest, like I'm not regular. Like usually I'm pretty regular. Wake up, go to the bathroom, like it's just my body feels really off when I eat late, especially if I'm eating like sugary foods or drinking some alcohol or something. You just feel off kilter and not like yourself. So the days, when I have my bigger meal earlier in the evening, like 5 to 6 o'clock, and go to bed at a good time, like 9 or 10, I wake up feeling like, just super rejuvenated and ready to face the day.
Ready to get it. Part of that is, same thing. Even when I do go to, like if I go out to dinner and then I go home and go to bed, I feel not ready to go to bed yet.
Right.
Like my body feels like swollen or something.
Yeah.
I hate that feeling.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times if I am eating later in the day, it's because I'm going out to dinner, which means I'm probably not eating in line with exactly where I would want to be in my meal plan. So that's another thing, navigating through that as well.
Yeah.
When you are doing an intermittent fast, I tend to feel like sharper.
Yes.
I'm on it. I'm clearer. I'm thinking better. My words are coming out better. I'm happier, more joyful. So there is a mental clarity aspect to it too as you're going through these intermittent fastings. And then when we talk about from a metabolic standpoint, we always want to talk about the mitochondria, and which I don't know if you guys know this or not, but that's known as the powerhouse of the cell. So that's where your energy is produced in your cells. And that's becoming a lot more well known in these last couple of years. When I used to talk about it, people were like, I don't have any idea what you're talking about. We did this whole seminar a couple of weeks ago about metabolism and how metabolism isn't just about how much energy you have or how much you lose weight, because people always think, oh, I have a slow metabolism or I have a fast metabolism, or that person can eat all this food and they don't gain any weight. But it's not just about that. It's about like the things that you're putting in. Carbs, fats, and proteins are the main three things that are going to fuel your Krebs cycle or your energy producing cells and turn those into you being able to get through your day. It's not just about like you being able to go run a marathon. It's about simple things like how's your heart beating, how's your lungs breathing, how's your food getting digested, how's your gut working. And it goes way deeper than just I'm eating these meals. It doesn't matter what I'm doing because I feel okay, but it's like, what's the quality of the carbs, fats, and proteins in order to make that Krebs cycle work properly? So it's such an integral detail. I'm going to start sprinkling those types of things in through these next few podcasts and just talking about things like that, because it's an important topic to understand. And if you don't know how well your metabolism is running or your mitochondria are functioning, then there's broken biomarkers that come up in different testings that we do, and it shows like where the mitochondria is not functioning well. So I always think of it in simple layman's terms of if I'm putting gas in my car, you want to put the right type of gas in your car. So my car takes the 91 plus octane. So it's the stupid expensive gasoline. But I always wonder, if I put the wrong gas in there, what happens?
Yeah.
My engine's not going to run properly. So if I put the right stuff in there, then my engine's going to be running properly. So it's the same thing with our bodies. If you put the wrong stuff in there, your engine's not running properly. But if you start feeding yourself well and also in good timing, so not just good food, but good food at the right time is a big deal also. We're going to talk about in depth later on in the podcast about women specifically and how fasting can interrupt our hormones, and especially women in their late 30s, 40s, 50s, and early 60s, just as we're going through perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause, and that whole cycle that we run through. It's such an interesting topic that I didn't grasp for a very long time. I'm going to be, at the time of this recording, I'll be 39 on Friday, and the last 4 or 5 years have been like, oh, I need to start thinking about hormones because I never really thought about hormones before. If you're getting into your 30s, nearing your 40s, or already in there, then it's time to really start thinking about treating your hormones well.
That's good.
We do have intermittent fasting. We just talked about that. And for women that are intermittent fasting affects women's cortisol and also their estrogen balance. And we want to have, for women, a shorter fasting window. So instead of 20, 18, or 16-hour windows of fasting, you want to have more of a 12 to 14-hour fast because of the cycle syncing, which we'll talk about a little bit later as we go into this. But we want to honor our hormones a little bit better. You talked about your husband doing week-long fasts. I've done 3 days, I think is the most I've gone completely without food. So I want to talk about what happens as you go 5 days or longer, and even I'm going to go 24, 48, 72 hours, and then 5 days plus, like what your body starts to go through.
Yeah.
So you go through, in the first 24 hours of doing a fast, you go through a glycogen depletion. So you start to turn yourself from being a sugar burner to a fat burner, which is a more sustainable way. There's the paleo diet, and then they almost call that like a caveman diet because that's how like our ancestors used to eat.
Yeah.
So it's a glycogen depletion, which basically you're starting to run on fats, and that's where the keto diet also like runs into this as well, because you want to give yourself really good fats to burn on. Because it lasts longer. It's more sustainable. Yeah. Glycogen, or sugar, it burns quick, and it gives you like a boost of energy. Like if you had like in your car, like my car has like a sport mode. If you turn on sport mode, the engine like revs up and you can push it and go really fast, really quickly. So that would be like what sugar does for your body. It's just like a rever. Yeah. But my car's not meant to be in sport plus mode all the time. I just like the sound of it, and I like the fastness of it. Probably you too. If you're eating a lot of sugar, you like the energy that you get, but then also it burns through my gas quicker. It burns through your energy, your gas quicker. It also that's where it's like doing the metabolic switch into the fat burning mode. So you're going to burn more fat when you're not in a glycogen burning state. 48 hours, the body starts to clear out damaged cells, and it starts to reduce inflammation. So you almost start going through your own sort of detoxification. So as you're clearing out any damaged cells, we think about damaged cells, a collection of damaged cells over time turns into a tumor, which could be benign or malignant, but it turns into a cancer tumor cell. So if we have enough damaged cells over time, that's building cancer. One of those things is we want to think about like, what am I thinking about right now? Antioxidants. Okay. One of those things that we want to think about is antioxidants. Antioxidants, if you have free radicals, which causes oxidative stress to the cells, which really, I think I've talked about this before on the podcast, but when you have oxidative damage, it's like, I think about it like if I put a piece of cheese on the floor and you had mice in your house, the mouse would come over and like nibble on the cheese, maybe not take the whole block of cheese, but the cheese then would be damaged. Right. There'd be like little nibbles around the cheese. You wouldn't then eat it because it's damaged cheese. Same thing happens with your cells. Free radicals are the enemy of your cells. They go around and like nibble on the cells to take away, but it doesn't allow your cells to replicate the way that they should be. That's an important thing to do, to get rid of the damaged cells so that you can replicate the good stuff.
Yeah.
When you get to 72 hours, you have an immune cell regeneration. That means that the white blood cells form white blood cells form to combat disease. So at 72 hours, your immune system starts to get boosted, and so you start to actually build more immunity towards any diseases that you may have. So this could be cancer, heart disease, diabetes, even like a virus or a bacteria or even a parasite or something. It can go in there and actually fight that thing off at a better rate than what it was when it was sluggish and dealing with those other damaged cells. And then we get into the 5+ days of fasting, and that's where we have like stem cell production increases, which is going to be enhancing repair and longevity of your cells. Those are really the big things I wanted to focus on for that. Anything you want to pop in there?
I just think it's so cool how our bodies just have this innate ability to heal ourselves. And we talk a lot about all these different biohacking things that we can do and things we can buy, but really our greatest tool, it's just built within us. So yeah, I think just God's really cool for making us that way.
I often think about when we were in the ancient days. We go back and listen to like biblical times and times of famine, and they didn't get to eat for a long time, or they went through fasting modes. And then even like the caveman diet, the paleo diet, we were meant to fast. Obviously, your body's doing things that are healing that modern medicine can't keep up with. Totally. Like it takes a lot of different drugs to do all the things that I just stated.
Yeah.
But God already put it inside of us and said, this is what I'm giving you to be able to heal your body. So stop eating.
Right.
But we have a society that it's so easy to eat. Snacking, like we when I grew up, it was like you have 3 meals a day and then you snack between those meals.
Yeah.
You have a breakfast before you have a breakfast, and you have a snack after you have dinner. So we're just like brought up in these ways of eating, I think, way too much food.
Yeah, way too much.
So let's just talk like practical senses. What's the best way for someone I want to eat less? What advice would you give somebody that was like, I want to eat less food. I want to try this like 12-hour fasting thing. What does that look like for someone to just get started?
I'll speak on behalf of Tom, my husband, real quick. So he has lost a lot of weight over the years, and he used to have these really big meals, and he would have them late in the day, and he would have multiple of them during the day. So he used to work a normal 9-to-5 office job, and he would basically have a little breakfast on the way and get a big lunch from Potbelly or something with all of his coworkers. And then you go home and rot on the couch and eat like a huge meal somewhat late. And so a lot of that was just like a lifestyle switch for him. So it was a good thing that he got out of the 9-to-5 office thing. So he had a little bit more flexibility about like when he could eat and stuff like that. But I think there was a time there where he was almost like detoxifying from that way of living. But it was like he would have to tell himself, okay, I actually don't need to eat right now. I have all the calories that I need for my workout or whatever. I'm doing just fine. I'm breathing. My heart's beating. I'm okay. So I think a lot of it is mental, but your body might feel it. You might get some headaches. You might feel those cravings. For sure, you'll feel like the sugar cravings if you're always eating the refined sugar and stuff like that. So realizing that you might feel that kind of thing happening, but it's part of the process. And just leaning into that and being like, wow, this is just part of my journey. This is really cool. My body's used to living this way for so long, but now I'm going to start leaning into a different way of living. And then just obviously giving yourself grace during that period, being healthy with it mentally and stuff like that. Definitely don't want to fall into anything. I think we're going to talk a little bit in the next episode about like eating disorders and how you can easily fall into that with different diets and stuff like that. So just making sure that you're doing it in a healthy, sustainable way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big thing anything to change. Like changing habits in any way. Rewiring and learning new it's hard. It is like going to the gym and like building a new muscle. But it's so worth it when people can figure out how to break a food addiction. Because most people are just addicted to food.
That's what it is.
It's all it is. And it's not that you are hungry. Most of the time when we are hungry, if you just slammed 8 ounces of water, that like hunger pang that you're feeling goes away. It's most of the time that you're dehydrated and not hungry. So we are, unfortunately, for some reason, our brain thinks of that in the same way. It expresses dehydration and hunger in the same pattern. Okay. But if you can take control of that and just, first of all, just stay hydrated. So even an easy thing to do is you want to be drinking half of your body weight in ounces of water every single day. So if you can stay hydrated in the least bit, then you'll be able to see some of those hunger pangs go away. And then when you do have that, especially when you are fasting or when you're doing the intermittent fasting, if you first went to drink water versus running to food, it's a hard muscle to build because you're so used to like the comfort of what food does for you and the energy that it gives you and all the things. But you want to be smart with that because once you start shifting your, again, like getting back to what Joe Dispenza talked about, like rewiring your circuits, you start to see things change and your body start to really heal the way that it's supposed to.
That's so interesting.
It's really neat.
Yeah. Take a sip of water right now.
Get it. One of the other things I like to talk about is Andrew Huberman's perspective on some things. That guy's a genius. I love his podcast. I love what he puts out for people. So if you've never listened to his podcast, they are amazing. They're really long, most of them, like 3 hours long. I don't know how he sits there and talks to himself for 3 hours, but he is a champion at that. He's
on the treadmill or something.
Yeah, no, he just sits there at the table.
Does
and
he?
Like, yeah, he just sits there. It's insane.
Wow.
So anyway, kudos to you if you ever see this, Andrew Huberman. He talks about refeeding, and you had some questions about that. Yeah. And so one of his statements is the refeed is more important sometimes than the actual fast. Because we think, and I think it's just like a typical societal norm of where we're at. Okay, I've depleted myself for these last 3 days. I haven't eaten anything, so now I'm going to go have a pizza. And that's a lot of times people's very first thing to do. So what happens when you have the pizza, instead of breaking it down how we're going to go through, is you spike your insulin, which then gets your fat cells going and hormones to be boosted in the wrong direction. So like the opposite effect of what you've been doing for the fast is happening, and it's happening rather quickly. So he talks about different ways to do this. And so he walks through really like why refeeding matters and how to do it. He talks about having a bone broth right away, and that's how you're going to break your fast, a lean protein, and then easily digestible veggies to avoid refeeding syndrome. So here's why refeeding matters. Because number one, you'll have insulin sensitivity to reset. After fasting, your body is primed to absorb nutrients. Huberman advises starting with easily digestible foods to prevent insulin spikes and metabolic distress. So if you put too much food into your body too quickly, your body's just not ready to absorb those nutrients, so it's going to overload it. Avoiding refeeding syndrome, particularly after extended fasts of 72 hours or more, the sudden intake of carbohydrates can cause dangerous metabolic imbalances. So that's your potassium, it's another electrolyte. Sodium, potassium, and so like your potassium and your sodium, if those get knocked off, it's going to affect things like your kidneys, your digestive system, and we want to be able to build those back up. The other thing is the first foods consumed influence your leptin and your ghrelin, which are your hunger hormones. I often think of these guys as usually people have broken leptin and ghrelin receptor markers. And so the easy way to think about this is they try to actually create a drug for this, but they couldn't, because it's not about having more leptin and more ghrelin. It's about having it be regulated properly. So if you've ever had, I'm sure you have because you have 2 beautiful kids, but a kid, like if you're in the middle of a conversation or doing a task, like Tommy or Rosa will come over, Mom, I want this thing, come help me with this. And eventually you get to a place where you don't hear them, like, it's funny, I can be in a room full of parents and none of them hear their kids like screaming and yelling for them.
So accurate.
And all I hear is like, why aren't you getting your child that wants something from you? And the parents are like, no, this just happens all the time. Like, they're fine. Like, they'll figure it out. They're fine.
Right.
Or I'm like, hello? Like, your kids are screaming and they need something. So this is like the leptin ghrelin thing. That if you have too much food over time, your body finally says, because what it's doing is it's like tugging on your shirt saying, hey, you're actually not hungry anymore. You need to stop eating. But you've overfed yourself so much. So it gets to, your brain gets to the point where when leptin and ghrelin start like knocking on the door, it's like you're blocking out your kids and you don't even hear them screaming anymore for your help or to get something, or they want to interrupt you in a conversation. So you've got to re-regulate that. And so if you give too much food too quickly, you're going to boost those things back up. So I think that's pretty cool. I love leptin and ghrelin hormones because they're like the underspoken heroes of weight loss, of metabolic resets, of all those types of things. So here's what a protocol looks like for Andrew Huberman. The first hour, he says, start with liquids such as bone broth to replenish electrolytes and soothe the digestive system. Bone broth provides glycine, which is an amino acid. It also provides collagen to support gut lining repair. So what's going to happen is you're going to go from not eating anything to all of a sudden eating a bunch of food versus not eating anything to a bone broth, which is going to help to start to wake the digestive system back up and keep the the digestive lining healed up well, also while giving good electrolytes in there. The next 1 to 2 hours, you're going to introduce soft, nutrient-dense foods such as avocados, steamed vegetables, or soft-cooked eggs. It's pretty cool. Easy to digest, and they help to stabilize your blood sugar. So none of these things that I've said is anything that's going to spike your blood sugar yet. It's actually going to keep it relatively low. After 3 hours, then you can start reintroducing lean proteins like grass-fed beef, wild-caught fish, or pasture-raised chicken, and good healthy fats such as olive oil to help with recovery, and then also to maintain in the state of ketosis. Because anytime you go into a fast of 24 hours or more, like I talked about, you're going into that fat burning mode, which essentially is you're going into ketosis. So you're turning into you're burning ketones versus burning sugar. Here's what he says not to do. Number one thing you want to do is stay away from sugar, alcohols, and highly refined carbohydrates immediately after you fast because of the insulin spikes and then also fatigue. You want to steer clear from large, overwhelming meals that are going to overload the digestive system and make things not work or make things work overload. So I think that those are just helpful tips because a lot of people do the fast and then they don't know what to do after the fast. So all the work that you do during those fasts gets backhanded afterwards. So coming out of a fast is just as important as going into a fast. And then what do you do after that? So we'll talk about on the next episode about fad diets, like what we believe is, I think we're on the same page with that, like what we believe is like a standard way of living. So you want to set yourself up after a fast of how do you want to live your life now? Are you going to go back to the same things that you were doing before, eating the pizzas, eating the pastas, having the sugar, having the dairy, all of those things? Or are you going to shift more towards a whole food, whole vegetable type of a diet?
Yeah.
Next thing we want to talk about is women and the effects of long fasts. There's a researcher that I love. I believe I've talked about her on the podcast before, but her name is Stacy Sims. She's wrote a book called Roar, and I absolutely love her work because she is working towards really providing women with the tools that they need to live through their cycles well. With training, with what type of foods you should be eating, with what type of supplements you should be eating during each cycle, each phase of their cycle. She has an app that she works with. It's called wild.ai. I fully stand behind this. The only thing I don't love is when they talk about when you're having cramps to take ibuprofen. It's just not something that I stand with, but that's okay. I like 99% of what they talk about. I'm just not, I don't take drugs. I don't.
Yeah.
advise taking drugs. It's just never been a thing that I do. I always get a little bit cringe when they get to that part of it because they'll give you recommendations for what you should be eating during your cycle, recommendations for what you should be eating after your workouts, before your workouts, during your workouts, and things like that. It was super helpful for when I did my Ironman. Have you heard of Stacey Sims or any of her work?
Just through you, just recently.
Yeah.
But I'm interested for sure.
I think I would love if I could get her on this podcast. That would be super fun. One of the things that she says is that her like statement is women are not small men. That's like her like statement piece that she's known for. So we've got to treat ourselves differently, and we really need to start with understanding the cycle. And if you're a guy listening to this, I still think it's important for you to listen to this because most guys have some form of a female in their life, whether it be your mom, a sister, a spouse, or best friends or friends in your circle. Like, it's time for us to start like normalizing the menstrual cycle and what happens during that process and how women go through this. And so that's going to be a phase of this. So we've got to understand, first of all, the luteal phase. So the luteal phase occurs in the second half of the menstrual cycle, typically between 15 and 28 days, the 15 and 28 day mark. This is marked with a rise in progesterone and a sensitivity to cortisol. During this phase, the female body becomes more insulin resistant as it prepares for a potential pregnancy. Really, our cycle, every single time we go through a cycle, it's designed for us to get pregnant.
So crazy.
Isn't that wild? Could you imagine every single time you went through like a cycle, you're supposed to be getting pregnant? That's a lot.
Yeah, that is a lot
to think about.
That's a whole podcast.
It's a whole podcast. So yeah, maybe just have you go solo on that podcast.
I don't know.
So as we're becoming more insulin resistant, it's making it more dependent for us to be, making us more dependent on making us more dependent on carbohydrates for energy. So that's when you feel like, I don't know about you, but I get like carb cravings. Like I could eat a bag of chips and snacks and bread like never before. Yeah. It's usually about 2 weeks out for about 2 or 3 days is where I get my like most highest level of like, I could eat all the things.
Yeah.
I want chocolate, I want all the snacks, I want all the things.
Yeah,
so same. Just so you know, like you're not going crazy when you're walking through these phases, like it really actually is a thing. When you do long fast, you have an increased level of cortisol. So extended fast in the luteal phase can spike cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, which elevated cortisol can break down muscle tissue for energy and cause blood sugar instability. It also disrupts your hormonal balance. Chronic cortisol elevation can suppress production of progesterone, which is a key hormone in cycle regularity and reproductive health. That is like so huge. We live in a society that is just stressed out.
Yeah. I
have seen clinically more people coming in with major cycle irregularity. Either their periods are lasting longer, or they are not starting on time. Like maybe they're going instead of a 28-day cycle, which it's interesting. You're going to love this too. If you look at the ancient calendars, there's actually 13 months.
Yes.
And this is going to feed your conspiracy
I know
soul.
about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And each month is supposed to have 28 days.
Yes.
So if you add up the calendar that it's set for right now, there's enough days in the calendar to be
Left
13 months for 28 days. And that's what a female cycle is supposed to run on. It's supposed to run, I think, even with the moon of like how we're supposed to be cycled. So really every woman should be in sync with their cycle.
Yeah.
It's funny because like when you become close friends, you're usually in sync with the cycle.
Yeah.
That's an interesting topic. I don't know the facts of like when the calendar was changed or what happened, but we should go back to that.
Something with the Rothschilds for sure.
There it is.
Probably them.
There it is. She got it in. She got it in. So the other thing that happens during the menstrual cycle irregularities is that long fast during the luteal phase can shorten your cycles. It can cause missed periods and also lead to anovulatory cycles, which means that you're not ovulating during that cycle, which is not a good thing. You're supposed to be ovulating. What Stacy Sims does recommend is to do a shortened fast. She says to do about 12 to 14 hours rather than extended periods of fasting. So prioritize nutrient-dense, balanced meals as well. Focus on protein and carbohydrates. Break fast with high protein and moderate carbohydrate meals to support progesterone production and stabilize blood sugar. So that's where her and Andrew Huberman differ. I'd love to have the two of them. Maybe there already is. Maybe he's already had her on the podcast, but I'd love to have the two of them sit down and have a conversation, because she really focuses on the female cycle and the hormones of the female. She is also saying don't eat or don't fast for long periods of time, where a lot of his stuff is coming in 72 hours plus. So it is a little bit of a different conversation. But even the carbohydrates, you want to make sure that they're good whole carbohydrates. So even a sweet potato would be considered a good carbohydrate, where I think that would still be good on the gut and better for the insulin production too. Cycle syncing as well. Align fasting patterns with hormonal rhythms. Longer fasts are better tolerated in the follicular phase, which is more towards the 1 through 14 days. So that's something to consider and keep in mind as well. The reason why during the 1 to 14 days is because estrogen is dominant and insulin sensitivity is higher. So again, Stacy Sims says women that use fasting as a tool but not a rule, listening to your bodies and adapting to their cycles, this is going to give you the most benefit, most bang for your buck, I guess you can say. So you want to do the longer fasts in the first half of your period and the shorter fasts during the second half of your period.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
You feel good about that?
I do. I'm going to start implementing that. Just downloaded an app today.
Did you? What did you download?
It's called Fast Like a Girl.
Okay. There's a book.
Is there a book?
I think so.
Yeah, it's that. I can't think of her name right now.
Oh, the lady that you were talking about.
Yeah. She created this app, and it's just what we're talking about, just syncing your cycle to fasting, basically. Intermittent fasting.
Sweet. So go download that app and see what it's all about. So two apps we said. So wild.ai and then Fast Like a Girl. Does that app have you like track your cycle in there?
I just downloaded it. I haven't even gotten into it, but I'm guessing.
Okay.
I'm guessing, yeah.
Cool. I wonder, I'm interested in that. I'm going to go check it out after this. That's pretty sweet. A couple other things like working out during a fast. Like people ask a lot of questions. So I prefer to work out fasted. So this morning I worked out at 6:30 in the morning. I didn't eat anything. Even when I'm like training for my Ironman, I usually don't eat something, which don't tell too many people because some people have like bad things to say about that. They say that you should be fueling with. That's the problem I have with endurance training, endurance athletes, or even like just high level athletes. They do feel like they have to, and I do at some level agree with them, like they have to have these sugary meals before they eat, or like super high carbohydrates. And you can get into this rut of eating too much carbohydrates and eating too much sugar and saying, I'm training, so this is what I think I should be doing.
Yeah.
So there's got to be like a healthy balance between that. So during short fasts, you can have like high intensity interval training, like a CrossFit or F45, Orange Theory, even like a Peloton type of a workout. Those are going to promote fat loss the best without breaking down muscles too much. So you want to be building muscle as you're going through these fasts. Now, when you're doing extended fasts, you want to do more low intensity, like going for a walk, a low intensity jog, or even like doing yoga or stretching is going to help with that. I prefer, and I often say, to work out in the morning. That's going to be the best time for you to work out. And also work out fasted. Part of the reason is you're going to burn more fats through that and also increase your norepinephrine, which is a hormone that's going to help you with your mood. So one thing that I started re-implementing that I stopped doing for a long time, this is going to help you optimize your energy. I get a glass of water when I first wake up in the morning and just slam it. Yeah. I got out of the routine of doing that, and I don't know, my body has been like craving water the last couple weeks. So I must be like super dehydrated. I don't know what's going on. So I wake up, first thing I do in the morning is drink a lot of water.
With electrolytes or just plain?
I just drink water first thing in the morning. You can put like a pinch of salt in there.
Okay.
That would be easy. There's Elements, there's Thorn. You can get, those are like 2 pretty good electrolyte products. I do just like putting in some good pink Himalayan sea salt because there's good magnesium, there's good potassium, there's good sodium in there. Good,
Magnesium, that was the other one.
That was the other electrolyte we were talking about. So yeah, I love just a good, I believe a much more cost-effective way to do electrolytes is just throw some pink Himalayan sea salt in there. Maybe I'll start doing that tomorrow when I wake up. You want to lean into deep work during your fasting windows, using dopamine to boost your productivity. When you are going through your fasts, that's when you can get the most amount of work done. That's probably why I do the most. I wake up in the morning and I'm ready to get some work done.
Yeah.
When I start eating, I tend to start getting a little bit more tired. Yeah, something to think about there. Plan meals around the most cognitively demanding tasks to leverage post-meal serotonin and relaxation. Naturally, after you eat, you're going to want to take a little siesta. I think the Europeans have it right. They do the siesta during the middle of the day, and it's how our schedule is set up too. In my office, we have we do a morning shift, and then we have a break in the middle of the day, and then we do an afternoon shift. And people often wonder, like, what do you do during the middle of the day? Part of that is me eating and then resting to go reset and go do more things. I do also work during those times as well, but most of that's coming from it's designed around a siesta to go through that. Yeah. Got anything so far? Any pop-ups?
I was thinking about this woman who pretty much, you were talking about mitochondrial health. She had an MS, a multiple sclerosis diagnosis. And she was an MD, and she was just going through all the different things to try and get her MS into remission. And it ended up being intermittent fasting for her, and she's totally in remission now. So she does it. She basically eats like a king or like a queen one day, and then the next day she doesn't eat. So it's one day on, one day off, just like that.
Interesting.
And she might cycle that a little bit according to her cycle or whatever. But yeah, she said she has like a really big paleo. She's a paleo person too. But really just reset her mitochondria and is totally healthy now.
I really love that.
Yeah, she was like in a wheelchair and everything, and now she just exercises regularly. And I'll find her name, shoot that over to you.
Yeah, we'll post it over on the Instagram or something, or a link to a video or something. Man, it's so wild to me, like what food can do for somebody. Healing process, you get a diagnosis like that and detrimental to you. And even if you can slow it a little bit is huge for people.
Yeah, she healed it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Crazy.
But it's not just the intermittent fasting. She's also doing a specific meats, fruits, and veggies, probably really low to no carbohydrates, and setting herself up that way. So we'll talk a little bit about that stuff also.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about, we'll shift into the spiritual aspect of some things. Do you know about some of the different fasts in the Bible?
Yeah. Jesus spending 40 days in the desert, and that's a fast. Then the Daniel fast we've talked a little bit about here. And I know some people implement that in their lives today in a spiritual way. But it obviously has physical impacts as well. Yeah, I love that.
There's a book about Daniel, and it's something Babylon.
Okay.
Can't think of the name of the book. Anyway, so there's a book about Daniel who's in the Bible. He's got his own book in the Bible. So this is not the book that I'm talking about. But it's writing about Daniel, the book in the Bible. But it was talking about how to survive the days, like us living in our own Babylonian times, not conforming to the world around you. And a lot of things that he did, like doing this fast, they wanted him to eat specific types of food, but he refused to do it and said, give me these specific things and watch me be a better human for it. And then also the spiritual component to fasting is leaning on God too.
Yeah.
I think that's the main difference of, there's a saying, it's like there's a difference between fasting and starving yourself.
Yeah.
Fasting in a spiritual perspective, a spiritual realm would be you take that time that you would normally be eating and go spend that time with God.
Right, it's intentional.
Yeah. So you're either, reading a devotional or reading a certain book in the Bible, or just sitting there in prayer, and maybe even just sitting there and listening to what God has to say.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I even find myself guilty of this. Like, I'll read something and then I'll pray and then boom, done, let's go. But giving yourself some time to reflect and hear what God has to say is like a big, huge component to that.
It's so huge.
And I think even about like when you mentioned Jesus fasting for 40 days, he fasted. What happened at the end of that fast?
What happened to him?
Yeah.
When he was met with when Satan came in, the ultimate temptation, you could say. He said, you can have everything. That they basically went to the top of a mountain, and Satan showed Jesus this kingdom, and he was like, this can be all of yours if you bow down and worship me. And Jesus resisted. And so that was like, it's almost can't be put into words how just deep that is, and how we can translate that into our own daily lives, because you really come to the very end of yourself when you're not. The Bible says man cannot live on bread alone, and that's the whole thing. You can see we are coming from a Christian perspective here, so people can be like, have all the money in the world and all the things that they could ever dream of, but they could be utterly depressed and maybe even suicidal or whatever, because they don't have that spiritual hole filled in them. So it's the same kind of concept with fasting. It's, are you really trying to strengthen your spirit, man, within you, and not focusing on your flesh? Because the Bible says it can be done. Like, you can really strengthen yourself through fasting if you just get away from thinking about the things that you need, just like with this physical reality that we see and observe. It's not the full reality. So that's, I love fasting for that reason. And I'm thinking back right now. I'll just share this quick story about when I first met Jesus, when I first had my salvation experience. My husband came over to me. So like, I had this like really transformational experience with Jesus. He met me, and like, I just overnight turned into this different person. And the next day I was sitting on the couch reading my Bible that I had dug out of, I don't even know where. I think it was my mom's. And my husband asked me what I wanted for dinner. We were engaged at that point. And I'm like, I'm not hungry. I'm just feasting on the word. Like, as a brand new, like, baby Christian, like, I had that just, like, innate, like, knowing. I wasn't physically hungry, because I was just in the word, just really getting into it. And I felt so satiated by God. And it was, I was really grateful for that experience, because it put me on this path of just knowing right from the get what we have and what we do and what we eat is not the end all be all.
That's good.
Yeah, it's good.
It's good.
Yeah.
I wonder, too, what would have happened had Jesus not fasted for 40 days and then was met with the devil?
Yeah.
And what type of a response would he have had?
That's good. That's interesting.
So think about it from, like, our perspective. We're constantly being fed and constantly almost like putting God in a sidecar in our little, like, motorcycles that we're riding around. But what would it look like if, like, we constantly was like, no, God, you come over here and you drive my motorcycle, and let me actually go in the sidecar and ride on your coattail a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I think that sometimes we get our strength from our physical, whether we work out or how we eat or our sleep even. God can take all of that stuff away, and he meets you there.
Yeah.
I just want to be with you for a minute.
Yeah.
I just want to sit with you. I want you to feel my presence and feel what I have for you. And so I think about Jesus going through that for 40 days, and what I always think about, what would have happened had Jesus stepped into his fleshly life more.
Yeah. He so easily could have done it.
Everything. He could have been like, forget this.
King. Yeah.
I'm not walking down that thing getting whipped. I'm not holding that cross. I'm not eating for 40 days. I'm the king here.
Yeah.
And so I just think about, like, how difficult was that for Jesus the human to walk through those temptations of, I just want to eat like everybody else.
Yeah.
I just want to go party like everybody else. I just want to go do all these things. But yet he just sat there and was like under the submission of God, the Father, and walked out this 33 years of life on earth so that I could have a life.
Yeah.
It's wild for me to think about that stuff. And one piece of that is I'm not going to eat for you so that I can meet with the enemy face to face and be able to say, you know what? Buzz off, mister. Go find somebody else.
Yeah.
Like I've overcome you. Like it's already happened. It's already finished. Yeah, that's powerful stuff right there. Then you think of Daniel and like what he went through and all of his different things. He was ripped out of a community and put into some other community, mutilated and humiliated, and his name was changed, and so his identity was taken away from him. But he still kept at his core who he was and who God was the whole time, and never wavered from, even when he was thrown in the lion's den, he was like, yeah, even if they do kill me, like I'm not praising anybody else but the Lord my God.
Yeah.
And I think about how much more am I like praising a meal that somebody created or I get at a restaurant than I praise God, or how much more difficult is it for me sometimes to open my Bible than it is for me to open my Instagram.
Yeah.
And like a fast can even look different for that. Like we talked about one of the very first episodes that you and I did together was a dopamine detox. So we talked about ripping yourself away from social media and figuring out what it looks like to be able to see those things from a deeper perspective. So
got Lent coming up for the
here we go.
Catholics, or if you just want to do
Fish
Lent.
on Fridays. Let's go.
Figure something
out.
out.
Lent. What happens during Lent? You take something away?
Yeah, I think it's 40 days, right? I grew up Catholic. I should really know this.
I didn't, so I don't.
Usually,
but also, it is a big thing. We should probably know that.
Yeah, I think it's 40 days, and it's leading up to Easter. And so you pick, what we did in grade school is you pick one thing out that you don't want to, that you'll give up for that 40 days leading up to Lent. I think a lot of time it would be for me giving up Gatorade or Sprite or candy or something. Yeah. But
if you were to choose right now today, if Lent was tomorrow,
it might be.
Could be.
It's coming up.
Definitely by the time this episode comes out, it probably is.
Yeah.
Lent time. Happy Lent, everybody.
Happy Lent. One thing, it would probably be social media.
Okay.
And maybe I should just do that.
Okay.
It would probably be social media.
All right.
Yeah, that's all I got to say.
That's
big. I need to put the phone down a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Are we going to make that a thing?
Yeah.
We're going to hold you accountable?
I'm committing to you right now.
Okay.
And whoever's watching this, I'm committing. Social media.
We got to find out when Lent starts first.
Yeah. Hey, Siri.
Yeah, let's find out. Let's have a real-time find out.
Yeah, we could just ask Chat.
We're going to ask ChatGPT.
It's a little more accurate.
Who else loves ChatGPT? When is Lent this year? March 5th.
Coming right up.
Yeah,
a couple weeks.
Yeah. Easter's on April 20th. That's fun.
So it's 40 days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This 40-day period. Excluding Sundays. Interesting.
Yeah, I seem to remember that.
Interesting. All right, everybody.
Wow.
So, happy Lent.
That timing?
How's that timing? Great. Good deal.
What are you giving up?
What am I going to give up?
What are you going to give up?
I don't know what I'm going to give up. Dang. I feel like I give up things all the time.
Yeah, I'm pretty regimented.
I guess I could go social media outside of work. That's hard to do. Maybe I'll just keep social media on my iPad.
Yeah.
So I can post all the podcast things, but I'll take it off of my phone.
Okay.
How about I do that with you?
Let's do it. Instagram.
All right, you heard it first.
TikTok and Facebook.
I don't have TikTok. I never got into that. I never downloaded it.
Good for you.
Yeah. Snapchat, never downloaded it.
No Snapchat.
Instagram. Facebook is like I check it just sometimes, but it's obsolete a little bit for me.
Yeah.
Instagram is where I get sucked into everything.
Okay,
which I've gotten way better. I feel like I've gotten better.
Okay, awesome.
All right. Molly and I are getting rid of social media for Lent.
Join us.
Let us know in the comments what you're giving up for Lent this year. Maybe it could be coffee. Maybe it's going to be no meat. Maybe you're going to do a Daniel fast for 40 days. Maybe you're going to give up TV for 40 days. It's really more than 40 days because it's not including Sundays. It's sneaky.
Yeah. Sneaky
snakes.
Catholics.
Does that mean you can go? Does that mean I can go on social media on Sundays?
See, I don't know.
mean,
You just
weird.
spend 24 hours on social media to make up for the whole week that you took off.
So scrolling. All right, we'll figure all that out. We'll have some posts about that as we go. Anyway, I think we have come to the end of this cycle here, talking about cycles. And other things. A couple of things we want to talk about, just reminders. We talked about 2 different apps that you should go look at, Wild.ai and Fast Like a Girl. I also recommend Stacy Sims' book called Roar for any women. I feel like men should read that too, just so you can understand what a female cycle is. It's not just them having a period. It is so much more than that, and I think that the more people that can understand that, the better it's going to be. So Roar by Stacy Sims is huge. Maybe one day we're going to throw this out into the universe, cosmos, to God, that Stacy Sims will be on this podcast.
There you go.
Talking to us in depth about this stuff, because she is remarkably smart. Next week, we're going to be talking about fad diets. So we're going to go through ketogenic diet, paleo diet, Whole30, vegan, vegetarian, all the things that we need to talk about through those, and maybe some stories that we've gone through. We hope that you can join us for that as we teach you how to renew your mind, refine your body, and refresh your spirits through different avenues. Thank you for joining this episode with us. We hope you had fun and enjoyed it. If you did, share it with your friends. Like it, put comments on there. I see all the comments and all the likes and things. I get really super giddy about it. Our channel's growing and super excited about that. Until next time, I hope you can stay battle ready. See you then.